All hail Biafra. This is Biafra Liberation Army Network coming to you again. Please like, share, and comment.
We have good hoodlums from outside the Imo State. They bring them in pretending to be IPO, and they commit this crime and they go away. So it is not about IPO. Yes, we agree. We have aggrieved IPO members, but I can tell you, those who are doing this destruction, most of them were brought from outside Imo State.
So, if you say that they are really not IPOB members,
they hire good hoodlums from outside Imo State.
Listen.
They bring them in pretending to be IPO.
Okay.
And they commit this crime and they go away. So it is not about IPO. Yes, we agree. We have aggrieved IPO members.
Okay.
But I can tell you, those who are doing this destruction, most of them were brought from outside Imo State.
Now listen.
So, if you say that they are really not IPOB members,
hold on there.
They hire good hoodlums from outside Imo State.
Hold on there. They hire hoodlums from outside the old Imo State. Who hired the hoodlums? And they tag them IPOB. IPOB. This was under the government of the one they call Buhari. A dead man that died again. A dead man that died again. What you're hearing so is a very good example. We say a classic example of giving a dog a bad name just to hang it. A very good example, in fact, a perfect example of giving a dog a bad name just to hang it. The advent of this thing was when we noticed that while we were praying the books of Psalms, when Nnamdi Kanu was still here with us, we didn't know he was in Kenya. We were praying the book of Psalms. And the intention was at the last chapter, then Biafrans will have to go all out to defend and protect our land. That was the intention. But the Buhari government, knowing what they were doing, suddenly we saw some strangers all across the road in Biafra land. Men dressed in black, carrying weapons, and covering their face. Our leaders came out, Nnamdi Kanu came out and said, these people who are going, I don't know them. They call them the unknown gunmen. Well, since they are doing the Lord's work, they can be called the angels. But I don't know them. When they first came, we noticed that they were going around the road. They didn't hurt nobody. But they were not speaking Igbo language, because when the Biafrans by the roadside were praising them in Igbo, thanking them for coming in, with the assumption that they were the ESN back then, those soldiers, they did not respond in Igbo. They were speaking Pidgin English. I repeat, in the advent of this problem that happened, where they were able to succeed to tag IPOB, a terrorist organization, we saw it play out in 2021. April, May 2021, in the month of April and May, where some strangers dressed in black attire were carrying guns and roaming around the streets. They were burning down the so-called police stations, but they were not speaking Igbo. They were in Igbo land, but they were not speaking Igbo. They were speaking Pidgin English. So what they did was to come in to front as if they were the ESN. And when Biafrans were now supporting them and were happy, thinking they were, liberators that have come to liberate us, suddenly we discovered they could not respond back in Igbo. The women, the children were praising them in Igbo, but they did not respond. We were worried. So with the wisdom of Nnamdi Kanu, he said, well, those who are going around doing those things, I don't know them. They call them the unknown soldiers or the unknown gunmen. I don't know them, but they are doing the Lord's work. Afterwards, we saw the real hands play out. The so-called unknown gunmen were now burning down police stations. Some of them went to a bank, carried a flag, a Biafran flag, stole money, and they were waving the Biafran flag. It doesn't make sense. Why will a thief go into a bank, steal something, and you are raising a flag? It means your intention is that flag being raised so that when videos are going out, the deaf, the dumb, the naive, those with low IQ, they will assume, oh, there is a Biafran flag there. It means the Biafrans are the ones that went to the bank to rob. This was the game, the handcraft done by the Buhari administration. And before you know it, everyone in that zoo called Nigeria, they were happy when the proscription of Biafra or IPOB was read out. But I am glad that the developed countries are wise. That's why they call them the developed countries. They saw the game that the Nigerian government were playing because they have the intel. Nothing that Nigeria does that America don't know about. They had the intel that, oh, this was a game played by the Buhari administration in order to turn a peaceful movement into a violent one. And ever since till to today, the new slogan now is that, oh, the Biafrans, the Igbos, they are killing themselves. Simon Ekpa is a killer of his people. And Nnamdi Kanu is a terrorist. They changed the so-called charges of Nnamdi Kanu from treason and felony to what? Terrorism. But before our eyes, we saw a man, Asari Dokubo. In his anger, he spoke out in anger, where he said how he has been killing the Igbos, that his father was selling Igbos as slaves. And he also mentioned all the tours that went around Biafra land with the Nigerian government, killing the Igbos, killing the ESN, and all that. He was speaking in impunity. Not only that, we saw him with a rifle. He was brandishing a gun live on air. We all saw those videos. Yet, the Nigerian government did nothing about it. So now you understand that the so-called unknown gunmen were the soldiers, the foot soldiers of a traitor, a criminal known as Asari Dokubo. That was the game, the contract he had with the Nigerian government. So I am glad this man is speaking out. I am glad that this governor, even though we don't have, at least the Spirit of God entered his heart and made him to profess with his mouth that those doing all those nonsense in Biafra land are not the IPOBs. Fellow Biafrans, I'll leave it here. I just want those naysayers out there, those that say they believe in Nigeria, those that see the Biafrans as a problem. Lord have mercy. Those who are wishing Nnamdi Kanu to rot in jail for 25 years, that's the new number they are putting out now, that he will be in jail for, for 25 years. He will be locked up for 25 years. He is a killer. He has killed the soldiers. He has killed the Nigerian soldiers. So he will be locked up for 25 years and they'll throw away the keys. Those are the words, the sentiments of those out there that believe in Nigeria. Somehow, the Fulani Caliphate, those that will say they are the least or the less educated, the least educated in that zoo. Those will say, oh, all they do is drink the urine of the cow. They make love to their cow. They suck the breast of the cow. They drink the blood of their cow. Those we regard as being less than humans, subhumans. But today, they've succeeded in creating enmity between the so-called educated ones, between the Yorubas and the Biafrans. Today in that zoo, all you get and hear is what? Tribalism. Nepotism in the highest level. They claim they do it in the name of politics. But today, look at the way they are interacting to themselves. The Igbo this, the Igbo that, the Yoruba this, the Yoruba that. Fellow Biafrans, in case you don't know, I will let you know that the best decision we have made in our life is to redeclare Biafra and set ourselves free. Nigeria is not a country. Nigeria is not a nation. So we must be glad that we have left that contraption. All they have done way back from time, from the days of Ojukwu and Yakubu Gowon in the 60s, all they've done is lie upon us. They called Ojukwu the aggressor. He was the problem one. He was the one responsible for the war. He was the aggressor. But today it is clear that they had a gentleman agreement in Aburi, where at the end, both men, they wined and dined, they shook their hands, and when they were going back to the airport, they entered the same car. And they agreed that, wow, we've had a very good discussion and we are happy with the outcome. Only for Yakubu Gowon to go out there, listen to Britain and the Caliphate, and turned around, sent his troop to come and kill us, while we're saying, in Aburi we stand. They came to kill us. 7 million of us lost our lives. But till this day, they said, no, blame the Igbos. The Igbos are the problem. The coup of 1966, the same thing happened. Blame the Igbos. Even though those that carried out the coup, the people that carried out the coup, they said no, it wasn't an Igbo coup, that the plan was to put in Awolowo in office. Those that went on that deadly mission, they came out, they wrote about it. They spoke on where they stand. They spoke about their intention, the reason, the how and why the coup was carried out. But no, they say, no, blame the Igbos. The best way to go about it to keep Nigeria one is to blame the Igbos. Even when the one they called Maradona, even when the one they called IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, even when they came out and wrote a book, I call it more like a book of confession, because he knows he is one leg in the grave. He wrote a book and declared, no, that coup, it was far from being an Igbo coup. It wasn't. That even the one called Kaduna Nziogo was very fluent in the Hausa language and couldn't even make a statement or a sentence in the Igbo language. He said, no, forget about that. He's an Igbo man and it's an Igbo coup. I told you how he even got the name called Kaduna Nziogo, a man who was born in Kaduna. He went to school in Kaduna. He joined the so-called military in Kaduna. His parents were based in Kaduna. When it comes to sport, he was number one. The same way they love JJ or Okocha. During those days, Kaduna Nziogo was the main guy in their military academy. That was how they gave him the name, Kaduna Nziogo. He was always taking first in their military, whatever. So they gave him the nickname. Those in the north, they gave him the nickname Kaduna Nziogo. But till this day, they said, no. The best way to keep Nigeria one is to blame the Igbos. And that's the same formula that is until this day. The same formula. At a brink, when that zoo was at the brink of going down, they turned around and said, no. Put the blame on the Igbos. The Igbo must go. You were having your so-called election. Even though we know that Peter Obi won the election, despite we warned him, do not get involved, do not drag the Biafrans into that election, because we know the outcome will be they will turn around and they will blame our people. Do not get involved in that election. Wash your hands off. That zoo is not mature enough to understand what makes a country to turn into a nation. Nationhood, they don't understand that. Wash your hands off. Tribalism is at the all-time high in that zoo called Nigeria. Peter Obi refused. He went to London and they gave him the blueprint, the green card to go ahead. He came and joined a very small party, Labour Party, that they said have no structure. And of course, the people voted for him. We know, in fact, from the data that I saw, because, in the Western world, they have all the informations. From what we saw, he got close to 11 million votes. It was close to 11 million votes. But we saw what happened. The Igbo must go. Yashukudi, no come out though. Yashukudi, no come out though. The next thing, with the anger, the embarrassment that how can the Igbo man win the Jagaban in Lagos? Tribalism step 10. The governor of Lagos State started doing the unthinkable. Houses were being burnt, destroyed. Businesses destroyed, burnt to the ground, looted. Suddenly there was a termination of those that have built their homes. And while you are sleeping in the morning, 2 a.m., the task force will come and say, okay, your house will be broken down. 2 a.m. in the morning. They were breaking down houses, breaking down homes. Oh my God, have mercy. Hey, there was a country. There was a country. But today as we speak, that zoo called Nigeria is gone. Nothing can bring it back. Nigeria is dead. Nothing can revive a dead nation.